Pokemon, the series that asks, what if dogfighting was not only legal, but so widely celebrated that it shaped all of society? It's like Michael Vick's dream come true! While this series once dominated every aspect of our culture, these days Pokemon is a shadow of its former self. Never before has an IP with more potential been put in the hands of a more useless entity.
Somehow Palpatine returned.
Well, okay, maybe there's one exception, but Pokemon is a close second. Pokemon has gone from an absolute revolution that caused millions of children to go on magical adventures to a laughable, poorly made slog of games that relies on past nostalgia to propel revenues. Not only does the company that makes the game suck, they can't even create interesting Pokemon anymore. You got Charizard, Dragonite, and Bramblin? Hey kids, don't you want to catch Bramblin? What about Bramblegast? Why is no one buying our stockpile of Bramblin merch? So what's going on? What has led to the collapse of player joy with the Pokemon Empire? Who's to blame, and what can we do to fix it? You know, YouTube recommends starting videos with a bang and putting your most interesting content up front to retain viewers. So with that being said, let's start with Chapter 1, Boring Revenue Figures. Pokemon has been going downhill for much longer than you may realize. I know when I say that, there are going to be people aggressively telling me the series is fantastic, but I guarantee you each and every Pokemon fan has an idea for their perfect Pokemon game, and it sure ain't Scarlet or Violet. You know, that Pokemon game of your dreams that seems so obvious for the Pokemon company to make, but they haven't made it yet? Uh-oh, quick, think of something else. If you think about a Nintendo-related IP for more than 7 seconds, you're going to get a cease and desist from Nintendo's lawyers. Oh no, here they come. They're mad that I thought about the most obvious Pokemon MMO ever. Yeah, I'll be right there. Oh god. Hold tight on that dream game. We're gonna get back to the future of Pokemon, but to understand the future, first we have to look to the past. Pokemon is currently the largest revenue-generating media franchise, bringing in a total of $88 billion in its lifetime. This is nearly 7 times as large as SpongeBob and twice as much as Star Wars.
I did pose this provocative idea, who is Luke Skywalker?
I know there is good in you. The Emperor hasn't driven it from you fully.
And he feared it.
Suck on that, Kathleen Kennedy. This is one series that you can't ruin. Game Freak can ruin this themselves. You see, the Pokemon games have made about $6 billion. Box office returns have brought in another billion, and jet aircraft livery sales has brought in $3 million. What the fuck is that? So where's the other $82 billion come from? Well, would it surprise you to learn that the core revenue stream of Pokemon comes from merchandising? There's enough of this crap to fill a warehouse the size of the state of Texas. You got plushies, Legos, cards, skateboards, coins, Pokedex, and whatever this thing is. Just by looking at these revenue figures, it's plain to see that the games only serve an auxiliary purpose for the Pokemon company. The whole goal is to just fill these games with new Pokemon and new stuff they can sell. It's basically just a vehicle to sell more crap. Hey, it's kind of like Disney's Star Wars movies. Quick kids, get your Admiral Holdo action figure. You can fight the patriarchy with your horrible decisions and get countless innocent people killed. The revenue figures for each Pokemon game released have generally trended down, and despite a recent uptick, it's pretty clear that the games made by Game Freak are on perpetual decline. So the Pokemon company has followed the money and invested more in merchandising than in game quality. And shit, their revenue figures have only increased, so everything's great, right? Well, no, not exactly. In general, the Pokemon community seems to be quite unhappy lately. Pokemon Go was a fantastic leap forward that was bungled by an inept company. Despite great sales, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet have some of the lowest ratings of the series, and even though there have been major technological leaps forward since its creation in 1996, the games still follow the same formula, and they look like shit. But by all accounts, the Pokemon Company should probably just keep doing what it's doing if it wants to have more record-breaking quarters, right? Chapter 2, the Pokemon Company is stupid. Here's the problem with success. When you have a huge quarter, overpaid executives think, wow, this is great. We should continue doing exactly what we're doing in order to have even bigger quarters. Someone get me a latte and 150 new Pokemon, stat! Wait a minute, latte. Lategia evolves into Lotsaurus. Well, that's 2 Pokemon right there. We only need 148 more. The problem with this mode of thought is that if you don't continue to adapt and change, eventually your core audience will sour and your revenue will primarily be driven by nostalgia. Basically, if you don't innovate and bring in new things, your consumers are going to spend less money. Hey, look out everyone, college graduate coming through. Make way for the marketing genius. So while Pokemon is throwing their money into theme parks, shows, and merchandise and seeing high returns there, they fail to realize that by not producing quality games, they are losing out on a huge catalyst for making even more money. Simply put, if they made an amazing Pokemon game, that would have a trickle-down effect into every single other piece of Pokemon entertainment. As Oppenheimer once said, a nuclear blast begins with the splitting of a single atom, kind of like how Pokemon exploded after 2 great games. At least I think he said that. I don't know for sure. I walked out of Oppenheimer with Logan Paul because people didn't punch each other every 5 seconds. So yeah, if the Pokemon Company had any brains at all, they would realize that by fundamentally bolstering the original core of their IP, their entire range of revenue-producing streams would increase. After all, a rising tide raises all boats. But how do you go about making better Pokemon games? If only there was someone on the internet with no life and a desire for a good Pokemon game to shepherd us through this difficult Chapter 3, Fixing Pokemon. Welcome to the position of chief money-making guy, Mr. Pancake Sean. So what's your first order of business? Well, I would like you to get me on a call with the head of game development, the head of digital partnerships, and the head of marketing. Certainly, sir. And what is the nature of this call? I'm gonna tell them to eat shit and get the fuck out of the building.
You're fired.
So if we're going to turn this franchise around, we need to have a 3-pronged attack to make Pokemon the media juggernaut it should rightfully be. We're going to focus on mainline games, mobile games, and marketing. Mainline games. I'm just going to say it. Pokemon games kind of suck. Wait, hold up in the comments. Let me explain first. Every game is pretty much the same. You live in a small town with your attractive single mother, then some professor is trying to get that ass, so he tells you to go on a quest to find every single Pokemon in the world, even the ones that have been extinct for millions of years and ones that are literal gods. You go to some gyms, catch some Pokemon, beat up a gang of terrorists, and ultimately beat the champions of the land. We've all done it a million times before, and if the Pokemon Company has their way, we'll do it a million times again. But you know what? Generation 10 is a big deal for the Pokemon Company, and if I had to guess, they're gonna shit out another uninspired clone with some new Pokemon that are modeled after like silverware or musical instruments or some shit. Here's what I think they should do instead. First of all, we're gonna go to Big Daddy Nintendo and ask for development resources. I know these are separate organizations, but Nintendo would probably throw them a bone. I mean, come on, you got like 20 Pokemon in Smash, you can help them out here. Game Freak doesn't know how to make anything look better than PS2 graphics, and their game development skills have always been ass. But over here we got Zelda looking like a damn oil painting and playing smooth as butter, and I can make all these machines and have all this fun. Holy shit! We need the people that made that to make this. Once we have the talent in place, we have to get to work on the newest Pokemon adventure. I call it Pokemon New Frontiers. In this game, we have no more gyms, no more predictable quest of cataloging every Pokemon, and no more being pushed on a grand adventure by a horny professor. Instead, this game is going to be a fully open world with varied environments where different Pokemon live. Now, here's the kicker. You aren't just going to be going around catching the Pokemon to make them fight or sit in a computer forever, but you're catching them to put into special places in each region. Each region is crazy and has dangerous events happening that are endangering Pokemon, so it's your job to save them. You take them to places where people and Pokemon will work together to build sanctuaries and towns, and by catching Pokemon, getting supplies, and forming relationships with well-written NPCs, you can protect Pokemon and watch the world change because of your actions. That's right, motherfucker, we're combining Animal Crossing's gameplay loop and customizability with modern graphics and a real-time battle system. Basically, you go from place to place catching basic Pokemon to live in these sanctuary cities alongside NPCs so they can grow up and be safe. Then once you establish the town, you can go on quests that will allow you to track down rarer and more dangerous Pokemon. It's almost like a Pokemon prequel where all that we know from existing Pokemon IPs is turned on its head. The player gets to have a meaningful impact on the world while going on perilous adventures where they have to face difficult forces, whether they be natural phenomena or groups of bad guys. Hell, make it online as well where you can travel with friends. I mean, Mario now has Souls-like elements, so why not? Or how about this? By connecting online, you can go full Sam Porter Bridges to contribute resources to larger projects that everyone playing online can contribute to. Hey, if we catch 1 million Bidoofs, this town will have a dam. Quick, everyone around the world, catch Bidoofs, we can do it! A Pokemon game with Breath of the Wild graphics and a gameplay loop that allows you to alter the world would sell like crazy. And from there, that's where we start talking about not just altering the virtual world, but altering the real world in a mobile game that isn't shit. Oh, you thought we were just releasing a new mainline Pokemon game? This is Gen 10, baby. We're gonna go big. That's right, I'm talking about a mobile tie-in game that's a follow-up to Pokemon Go. Only this one isn't made terrible with horrendous updates. Okay, first of all, we ditched Niantic. They proved they can't handle anywhere near what we need for a modern mobile Pokemon game, and they ruined a great idea by fucking up how you catch Pokemon and having the server resources of a startup company. Instead, we're gonna go with a developer that has 1 million servers. Go with the Clash of Clans people or the Candy Crush people. I don't know, just go with someone who's made an established mobile game that is thriving. Or you could just call up Bezos and tell him you need some servers. Give him a free shiny Lucario or something. I'm sure he'd be game. Look, I know the games made by these devs are garbage slot machines aimed at children, but if the Pokemon company told them to make a great game with no microtransaction bullshit, I'm sure they could do a fine job. For simplicity's sake, we'll just call this Pokemon Go 2.
Pokemon go to the polls.
You can transfer Pokemon caught in the real world into the Switch game to add to your projects or party, and you can take any Pokemon from the game and put them in your phone to take them on walks. Kind of like that cool Pokemon pedometer that they don't use anymore, but it was the coolest thing ever. I'm afraid I can't take off my pants, Denise. I know you're in the mood, but I got my Charizard leveling up with every step in your house. Your words can't hurt me, Denise. Your words can't hurt me when I know my Pokemon are growing stronger with every step. Some of the best moments with Pokemon Go were when masses of people flocked to one location to find a dead body. I mean, a cool Pokemon. You could do that in the mobile game, but expand it beyond just catching Pokemon. Have areas where Team Rocket has taken over, and you have to physically go and fight them with your Pokemon. Have real-life Pokemarts in real-world places where you can buy unique items that you can then use in the game. There's literally endless possibilities here, and the fact that Niantic fucked this up is just ridiculous. The next gen feature of this Pokemon mobile game would be using augmented reality technology to show Pokemon all over the world. So instead of just going to a place and seeing the Pokemon in a green field on your phone, as you looked around on your phone, there would be indicators showing where to find certain Pokemon, and when you got close enough, you could actually see them in the environment. They actually have an AR Plus mode in Pokemon Go that is a little bit rudimentary, but it shows that this is possible. And if put in the hands of a better developer, it could probably look really great. Sure, in the early days, you would probably accidentally send kids into government-restricted areas or something, but you could iron out all of that shit. We used Bing Maps to map the whole world on Microsoft Flight Simulator, and AI can drive cars now. I'm pretty sure we can make a program that identifies different types of lands and populates it with unique Pokemon. So you release both the mobile game and the Switch game on the same day and make a $1 zillion. But remember, all of this is just a drop in the bucket compared to Marketing. In the late 90s, Pokemon was everywhere. You had Pokemon planes, Pokemon plates, Pokemon toilets. Ah, damn, babe, I forgot to tell you, it hurts when I squirtle in the Pokemon toilet, so you may want to get tested. Hey, don't give me that look. I wore a rubber so you wouldn't catch them all. While Pokemon still merchandises the living hell out of anything and everything that can be sold, I think they're ignoring a cardinal rule of selling shit. You see, whenever you're selling something, you have a few different categories of consumers. First, you have the ultra fans who cover everything they own in Pokemon paraphernalia. For some reason, these people tend to be overweight and quick to comment on YouTube videos they disagree with.
I'm not overweight, Pancake Shot. I'm just big boned, and if you saw me, I'd crush you like a Snorlax, and I tell.
Second, you have casual buyers like myself. This is the second biggest group who owns a few Pokemon things, but doesn't have their life revolve around Pokemon merch. See, I have my little Charmander guy right here. He's my riding buddy. And lastly, you have people who think Pokemans are something with like Pikachu, I guess? That's the little yellow rat, right, dear? That's the one you like for Christmas? Yeah, I know Pokemon. I'm hip. So when you're marketing, your goal is to move everyone up this pyramid. And while Pokemon has every type of merch available, all of it lives in individual silos. Like you may buy the Pokemon bed sheets and not even know the Pokemon toilet exists. You need the full set. So the way you fix that is tie the mobile game in with the merch. I'm not saying plaster ads for merch all over the mobile game or do some microtransaction bullshit. Instead, players should be rewarded for their progress in the game with things that draw them towards purchasing real-world merch. See, if you're some casual person who hasn't played Pokemon in decades but downloads the mobile game for free, you probably won't buy shit. But if after catching 10 Pokemon, you get a voucher to save 10% on any order from the Pokemon company and a link to their website pops up, you'll probably at least check out the website. From there, you'll find an extra large microbead Pikachu plush and say, oh shit, I need that now. That's $89.99 in the pockets of the Pokemon Company, and Lord knows their overhead to make that shit in China is probably like 8 cents. You hear that, Chinaman? I need you to move faster so I can buy this Pokemon merch. Basically, you don't have microtransactions or bullshit gatekeeping in the mobile game, and instead reward players with things that lead them to buy merch, whether it's discounts, access to exclusive stuff based on real-world locations they visit, or whatever. Hell, you could even use the camera on phones to tie this into the Pokemon card game if you really wanted. That's a whole other avenue of revenue. All of this then turns a percentage of your player base from the second or third category into the first or second category. Then, anytime someone buys merch, have it shipped with a little catalog that gives them exclusive deals for related Pokemon merch. If someone buys a Charmander plush, they should be made aware of related products. That person may want the Charmander hat and skateboard too. You ever try rolling up to a chick's place with a Charmander hat and skateboard? Some of my audience may be a bit young for this, but let's just say that'll make a girl's cloister open up for your Onyx so you can squirtle your, Simdiman. Jesus, they actually made another splooge Pokemon after Muck? You ever spell muck backwards, kids? Chapter 4, Conclusion. Pokemon is one of the best IPs of all time, and they are enjoying record profits. But my fear is that they're gonna put innovation to the side and instead shit out the same old game they have always made because they think this will continue to lead them to massive revenue. While they are doing very well financially, they could be doing a lot better. And by giving the player base new and exciting adventures beyond the same formula they've used for over 25 years, not only will they increase the revenue of their gaming sector, but the entire business will benefit from increased interest in the brand. But honestly, they're not going to get this message if we, the consumers, don't make a point. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet was one of the worst reviewed Pokemon games of all time. But do you know what? It was the 4th best-selling Pokemon game of all time and sold nearly as much as Gold and Silver. If we want to have higher quality Pokemon games, we need to hold the Pokemon Company to a higher standard.
And share this video as far and wide as you can while subscribing and hitting the bell.
Pokemon can be great. We've seen it before, but if they want to get back to wide appeal, we need to let them know their current course is not as fiscally viable as another course. So don't buy that Pikachu toilet. Hold off on that Snorlax plushie. Tell your kid they don't need a Piplup lollipop, damn it. I want to play a quality new Pokemon game and see the franchise return to its peak, and if that means 35-year-olds who live in their mother's basement can't buy as much Pokemon merch, so be it. What's that? No, I can't come upstairs right now, Mom. I'm making a new YouTube video.